The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden haze over the rolling hills of northern Punjab. Shadows crept across the land as the light faded, swallowed by the approaching night. At the edge of a quiet village, Sikandar Shah stood in silence, his broad-brimmed hat tilted low, the faint hum of crickets rising in the air around him. Across his back rested the Zulfikar talwar, its hilt gleaming faintly in the dim light, a family heirloom, a weapon, and a burden all at once. Tonight, he was no longer a student. He was no longer under the protective wing of his grandfather, Baba Rahmat Shah. For the first time, he would walk the path of the Rakhwals, alone. For centuries, the Shah family had been guardians of a fragile balance, protectors of the unseen. They were the Rakhwals, tasked with confronting the restless spirits and unraveling the cursed mysteries that lingered in the shadows. Their origins traced back to Sultan Shah, an ancestor who had saved a Sufi saint's shrine from desecration centuries ago. In gratitude, the saint blessed him with the Zulfikar talwar, a blade imbued with magic to sever curses, dispel darkness, and protect both the living and the dead. From that day, the Shahs became guardians of the spiritual fabric of the land. But by the time Sikandar was born, the world had changed. Myths were dismissed as mere folklore, sacred sites were desecrated for profit, and the unseen was forgotten. The balance the Rakhwals had preserved for generations faltered. To Sikandar, this wasn't just a loss of duty, it was a loss of identity for a land steeped in stories. His decision to take up his family's mantle wasn't just about tradition, it was about preservation, about being the bridge between a modern world eager to forget and the ancient truths that shaped it. Sikandar's childhood was steeped in whispered tales of hauntings, jinns, and cursed ruins. While other children shied away from the shadows, he was drawn to them. He would sit for hours at the feet of his grandfather, Baba Rahmat Shah, listening to stories of his adventures. Baba Rahmat was a legend in his own right, a man who had confronted the jinns of Hingal, brokered peace with the restless dead at Makli necropolis, and banished spirits from the haunted forts of Punjab. To Sikandar, Baba Rahmat was larger than life, but he was also a patient teacher. He trained Sikandar in the ways of the Rakhwals, teaching him to read ancient texts, decipher runes, and wield talismans that could protect against malevolent forces. The centerpiece of his training was the Zulfikar talwar. This blade is not about strength, Baba Rahmat had told him. It is about purpose. To wield it is not just to fight, but to understand. Every spirit has a story, Sikandar. Some are angry, some are lost, and some are victims of great wrongs. We are not executioners, we are bridges between worlds. Those words had shaped Sikandar's resolve. His goal wasn't to destroy the supernatural, but to seek the truth behind it, to understand the fears and tragedies that bound the spirits to this world. As Sikandar Shah grew older, his understanding of the world around him deepened. He came to realize that myths were far more than stories told to entertain. They were cultural treasures, fragments of history intricately woven into the fabric of the land. Each tale he encountered carried a kernel of truth, a whisper of a forgotten past that connected generations. To Sikandar, these stories were the soul of his people, a reminder of who they were and where they had come from. If these myths were allowed to fade, something vital, something irreplaceable, would be lost forever. But preserving these stories was only part of his mission. Sikandar knew that the world was changing, and not always for the better. He had seen the forces of modernity collide with the sacred, the past dismissed as irrelevant and the unseen reduced to superstition. Treasure hunters desecrated ancient tombs, tearing apart legacies for their own gain. Developers bulldozed sacred sites in the name of progress, erasing centuries of cultural memory in a matter of days. Charlatans twisted old legends into schemes to exploit the naive. Sikandar understood that safeguarding these stories was not just about honoring history, it was about protecting the future, ensuring that the land's identity endured in the face of erasure. At the same time, Sikandar learned that not all spirits were evil. Many were victims of betrayal, tragedy, or the relentless march of time. To him, being a Rakhwal, a guardian, was not merely about banishing spirits, but about bringing balance to the world. His goal was to offer peace to the restless and closure to the living. He didn't see spirits as enemies to be destroyed, but as echoes of unresolved truths, each with a story worth hearing. It was this compassion that defined his work. As the world modernized, and the lines between myth and reality blurred, skepticism grew. Yet so did the need for someone like Sikandar. In a land steeped in ancient tales, where every corner whispered of a forgotten past, he became a bridge between two worlds, a protector of the unseen and a seeker of truth. He dreamed of leaving behind a legacy that extended beyond his own lifetime, a library of stories, artifacts, and maps, a compendium of knowledge for future generations to carry forward. For Sikandar, every myth was a new beginning, every legend a call to adventure. Each tale he followed was an opportunity to preserve history, to find the truth hidden in the shadows, and to ensure that the stories of the past were never forgotten. His name would become a legend of its own, whispered in villages and echoed in cities. Wherever shadows gathered and mysteries lingered, Sikandar Shah would be there, ready to face the unknown and protect the soul of the land. But first he had to prove himself. That night, under a sky dotted with stars, Sikandar stood ready to answer his first call to adventure. A chill breeze swept through the village, carrying with it whispers of fear and desperation. The elders had spoken of a shadowy figure haunting the Changamanga forest, luring travelers into the darkness with glowing orbs. The forest, they said, was cursed, a place where restless spirits guarded their treasure and punished those who dared disturb it. The villagers had begged Sikandar to intervene. A merchant's son had gone missing 2 days ago, and the elders feared the worst. Sikandar had listened intently, his jaw set, his heart steady. He had heard of Changamanga's curse before, its legend dating back to a gang of bandits who had been betrayed and killed by rival factions. It was said that their spirits still roamed the forest, protecting their hidden loot with vengeance. Sikandar tightened the strap of his satchel, feeling the reassuring weight of the Zulfikar talwar across his back. He took a deep breath and stepped toward the dark edge of the forest. His training had prepared him for this moment, but as the shadows swallowed him, he couldn't shake the sense that this was just the beginning. The forest loomed ahead, a labyrinth of ancient trees cloaked in mist. Somewhere within its depths lay the truth behind the legend, a truth he would uncover. The villagers' whispers faded behind him as the first flicker of a golden orb appeared in the distance. Sikandar narrowed his eyes. His first test awaited, and he would face it alone. To be continued.